Hi, I'm Joe Weems, and welcome to Rule Breakers Gaming. And this is episode 1 of the new series, Legion by the Numbers. I'm a math geek, I love math, and I also love Legion, so I thought it'd be really interesting to do some numerical analysis on various Legion units. So to do that, I actually created a dice simulator that simulates Legion dice and how they work. And in this series, we're going to examine various units and their mathematical properties, their statistics, their probabilities of making hits and that sort of thing. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the Magnaguard and the BX series droid commandos and which one is actually better. This is inspired by some podcasts I've listened to recently that just said, hey, always go with the Magnaguard. They're way better than the BX droids. And so I thought it would be interesting to do some analysis and look and see what really is better, Magnaguards or BX series droids. So that's what we're going to do right now. So here I've got Tabletop Admiral up, and I'm going to talk about how we're going to kit out the Magnaguards based on being a melee unit, and then the BX as well, and we're going to do an analysis of them. So let's start with our Magnaguards. We're going to add in a unit of Magnaguards up here. And for a heavy weapon, we do have a couple of choices, just another Magnaguard or the Electro Whip. Now, we're going to be looking specifically at the Magnaguards versus the BX and what's better for melee. In a different video, we'll do an analysis on their ranged capabilities, but let's just consider them as melee units. Whether that's an anti-Jedi unit to fight off a Jedi, or actually one of the units that's going to be very aggressive and offensive, getting in there and trying to tear things up. So for that reason, I'm going to go with the Electro Whip. The Electro Whip Magnaguard, as you can see, offers 2 red dice versus the 2 black dice. So that's pretty good advantage there in melee, and that's worth the extra 6 points over the 22-point Magnaguard. We won't look at a base Magnaguard unit. That would also be interesting to look at, but we won't look at that one. We're going to look at the unit with the Electro Whip Magnaguard. Then for training, of course, we're going to go with tenacity so that the first time we lose one of our units, we'll have very little fall off in our melee capability. Now, finally, there is another training slot. And the question here is, should we put another training into practice, use another training upgrade? And of course, we could, and I think it's actually probably a good idea. The ones that to me seem pretty obvious, especially when we're considering offensive capability, is going to be offensive push. That's probably everybody's favorite, is to do offensive push to give you that aim token. Into the Fray is another possibility because it gets you surge tokens, but the Magnaguards do surge to hit. So the only thing they can really use it for is defense. So it does kind of taper off some of the advantages of that. I actually really like Hunter, because one of the things that Magnaguards could really be great at is being an anti-Jedi unit to close in and attack a Jedi or another big melee unit. And once that unit gets damaged, they're going to have aim tokens every time they attack. So I really like Hunter. I think it's worth the extra couple of points. So we're going to do the analysis with Hunter. It's actually going to work a lot like offensive push, so we're just going to do the analysis with him without an aim. So I'm going to put Hunter on that. We won't worry about comms or grenades. They don't really apply to their melee capabilities. Now for the BX droids, we're going to show how we're going to outfit those. We're going to go with the Mind Saboteur. Again, we're worried about melee here. So he's 2 points cheaper than the Sniper, so we want them. Of course, we need the Vibro Swords to give them their melee capability, which gives them the red and white die for attack. And then for training, again, we're going to go with Tenacity. We don't have a second training option, so no worries there. And that's what we're going to end up having for our 2 kitted out units for the Magnaguards and the BX, is that lineup. So let's start with the Magnaguards. So let's head over to legionbuilds.com/dice. This is the dice simulator we're going to use. I built this to simulate the statistics and probabilities of Legion. First off, let's look at the points. The Magnaguard are 110 points, so we're going to plug in 110 here, because this will give us our value per points. It'll give us our hit per points. Now the Magnaguards are 2 black dice per unit. There's 3 units in the base one, and so that's going to be 6 black dice. We're going to plug in 6 here. And then that Electro Whip has 2 red dice. So we add the 2 red dice. They do surge to hit, so we'll plug that in as well. And that gives us the basic layout of the Magnaguard. So let's just go ahead and do that simulation. We're going to roll that. And we can see from that that we're getting on average 5.5 hits. Now this is against something that doesn't defend, so this would be your base number of hits. But it'd be really a lot more important to find out how that works against something that they might attack. So let's just do a couple of quick numbers. Let's first start off with a white die defender that doesn't surge to block. There aren't very many of these, and you're probably not going to have your Magnaguards attacking those, but it'll still be interesting to see what happens if they say go up against a unit of B1s. So in that case, they're doing 4.5, just a little bit over 4.5 hits on average there, and clocking it at costs about 24 points per hit. Now, white dice with surge to block is a little bit less common, but you might still end up meleeing and attacking something that is white dice surge to block. And if the Magnaguards attack that, they get a 3.6, 3 2/3 points of damage on average. And finally, we're going to go against red with no block. There aren't very many units that are red with surge to block. Mostly it's red with no surge. And against units like that, this is your typical Jedi, right? They're actually doing 2.75, so almost 3 points per hit. And the chance of missing is practically none, only 3%. So you throw those Magnaguards against a Jedi, and they're almost for sure going to take 3 damage from the Magnaguards, even after rolling their blocks. Now let's look at a couple of variations here. What happens when we lose our first Magnaguard? So if we're down just one Magnaguard, we're going to go down to just 4 black instead of 6, but our red goes up by 1 because of tenacity. So again, we're going to go against red dice with no surge, and that still gives us 2.5 points of damage on average. So still, again, a little bit better, in fact, and almost 4% chance of actually blanking out there or getting blocked on 100% of the hits. So practically no chance they're not going to take some damage, and most of the time on average they're going to be taking 2.5. That's pretty good damage against a Jedi. Most Jedis mean they're 3 hits and they're going to be going down. Now again, we did talk about the fact that we put Hunter on these Magnaguards, so an aim token is going to be very common. So let's see what happens when we're down 1, but now the Jedi is also down a unit or down some hit points as well. Or again, what if they're going up against some B2s? The Wookiees are really popular right now. They have multiple hit points, so if any of those are actually wounded, you can get that aim token. So let's roll that and see. With an aim token, now even though they're down 1 unit, they're still doing 3 points of damage. And if we go back to the full strength unit with 6 black and just 2 red, then they're doing a little bit over 3 points of damage per attack. Really great against Jedi, against that. So that's pretty interesting. But that's our comparison number. 3.2 is when we're full strength with an aim token against a red Jedi. Now let's go ahead and do our comparison. I'm going to open up a new window and go back to the dice simulator. And we're going to look at the BX droids. So let's just kind of review them here. They just have, for Vibro Swords, they have a red and a white die per unit. They actually start out with 4, but they get a 5th unit with the Mind Saboteur. And they surge to hit as well. They don't really have anything else that's very applicable in melee, so we're going to plug those numbers in. So that's a 5 red and 5 white and surge to hit. So let's go and get our base number. Our base number is 6.25 points, which is actually a bit higher than the Magnaguards. Remember, they were 5.5 points for the base. Now let's look at how they attack, deal damage against something with white dice and no defense. It's still pretty high, 5.2. White dice with surge to block comes out to 4.1. And then red defense die and no surge is going to come out to 3.1. So let's compare that to how the Magnaguards did. When we were looking at red dice with nothing surge to block in the basic unit, they're actually doing 2.75 points of damage. So the BX droids are actually doing more damage. Oh, we forgot to plug in our points. Let's plug that in there. They're only 106, or a little bit less, a little bit fewer points. So 3.2 If we roll that again to see what the points per number is, it's about 34 points per hit, where for the Magnaguards, against a red die unit, we actually had to spend 40 points per hit. So these BX droids are actually doing a little bit better damage against red. So now let's look at what happens when we lose one of our Magnaguards, or BX droids. Again, the really cool thing about BX droids is with tenacity, if you lose one, you're only going down one white die. You still retain that red die. So that's a huge difference there with the BX droids. Let's go ahead and roll that. We were doing 3.12, now we're doing 2.95, so we're basically staying the same at 3. Whereas with the Magnaguards, when they lost one, they went down to 2.5. So they had a little bit bigger fall off there, about 0.2 points. Whereas these guys, well, I guess it's about the same, almost 0.2 points of damage. And then finally, let's look at what happens to the BX droids when they get that aim token. So that's not really likely with them. They're not likely to get an aim, but let's just for reference purposes see what they get out of that. And that is 3.3 hits. So really it's probably fair, most fair to look at, say, let's get rid of the aim and let's put them back up to full strength with 5 white and 5 red. And let's look at the Magnaguard again. That's full strength, so 2 red, 6 black. But they are going to more likely have that aim. So when we do that with the Magnaguards, we're getting 3.2. And with the BX droids, we're getting 3.12. So in some cases with, say, either offensive push or with Hunter, the Magnaguards are actually doing better. But the BX droids, without any additional help, are actually a lot more reliable. Now, of course, you also have to worry about things like AI and things like that. The Magnaguards are cool because even if they have AI, if they have Hunter, they're still going to be able to get that aim token on them, because the Hunter upgrade just says that when they're attacking a wounded trooper unit, they get to get that aim token. So they're a lot more likely. Now, let's look at one more combination, just out of curiosity here. What happens if we give the BX droids, instead of giving them tenacity, let's give them Hunter as well. So it's a little bit more, it's 108 points. But again, nowadays there's so many multi-hit point units that are in a game that you're melee-based Wookiees and Jedi, that's maybe not such a bad idea. What happens to the BX droids when they have that aim? So here we have the full strength BX droids with the aim. We saw that again, red with no block. They were able to get 3.5 points of damage. And if we lose one of them with 1 white and 1 red, we don't have the tenacity anymore, but they're still able to put out about 2.87 points of damage on average. So are BX droids actually universally worse than Magnaguards? Well, there's a few differences, of course. The Magnaguard, one of the big things is this Electro Whip Magnaguard can hit at range 1, and they have the immobilized token. So that's a really big difference between the Magnaguards and the BX droids, is that Electro Whip. They also have the Guardian. So if you do keep them around your leader for, say, their defense to defend you against a Jedi, that Guardian can actually be really nice. And with the retinue, they can get the aim token just by being nearby. So again, they're really a lot more likely to have that aim token. In fact, you can make an argument for getting rid of Hunter and just keeping him really close to your commander. If your commander, especially, is maybe a melee unit, it doesn't work with Maul, but it works with a lot of the other units, including the new super tactical droid with the melee-focused one. So pretty interesting. Overall, I would guess that Magnaguards do win out a little bit, but the BX droids are really no slouches at all. They're not significantly worse than the Magna droids as far as doing damage. Of course, there's a lot of other considerations, and I think one really big one that you got to kind of admit here is that the BX droids have 1 hit point each, whereas the Magnaguards have 2. So that's a really big difference. These guys have a total of 5 hit points for the entire unit. The Magnaguards have 8. So they're actually a lot tougher to take down as well. So all things considered, the Magnaguard do have a lot more tricks up their sleeve. and are a lot tougher to kill. But from just the standpoint of raw damage output, the BX droids actually do have the edge on them in a small sense in a couple of ways, in a couple scenarios. So hope you like the content. If there's anything that I missed or anything you like, please leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of it. If there's something else you'd like me to do an analysis on as well, hit like and subscribe if you like the video. And I hope to see you in another video.